Hello.
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 Hey, we are the Equity Young Members Committee,
and this is the Young Members Podcast. Welcome.
Each episode,
we're going to be talking about something different.
Something different.
Something different.
We'll talk about something different.
To do with our union,
our industry,
and all the people in it.
Made by Equity members.
For Equity members.
Happy listening.
With Equity Committee nominations open at the moment and closing this week, we're going to be talking all things Equity Committees, what they do, who can get involved, and why you should put yourself forward.
Hello, I'm Sam Coleman, one of the members of the Equity Young Members Committee. Today, really exciting, I'm getting to chat with James Nicholson from the LGBT Plus Committee.
I'm Michelle Ashton. I'm on Equity's Young Members Committee, and this morning I'm talking to Abiola Ogunbiyi from the Women's Committee.
And I'm Helen Monks from the Equity Young Members Committee, and today I'm going to be talking to Lizzie Cooper from the Stage Management Committee.
So, James, it's an absolute honour to have you here on the Equity Young Members podcast. So to start off, did you want to just introduce yourself, tell us a bit about who you are, why you're here?
Absolutely. Hello, thank you for having me. So my name is James Nicholson. I am an actor, and I am part of Equity's, as well as being a proud Equity member, I am a part of the Equity's LGBT Plus Committee.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you so much for chatting to me. It would be great. This is a big question, but just who are you?
So my name is Lizzie. I am a freelance deputy stage manager, but I have been an assistant stage manager and various other roles for about 8 years, mostly West End, a few tours along the way, and a bit of fringe before I trained as a stage manager as well.
Hello.
Hi, Michelle. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, about your career and, how long you've been involved in Equity?
Absolutely. So I suppose, like many, my first Equity experience was my last year of drama school. I studied musical theatre at a place called Arts Ed in London. Mm-hmm. And I was a very earnest young girl who just knew she wanted to sing, dance and act and didn't really know where to do that, and Google and I believe the CDET, which was the Centre of Dance Education Training, and I think the name has changed, but the Centre of Drama Schools as well led me to Arts Ed. But now I would say that if I had to choose, I would say, I am an actress and a screenwriter. Since training and performing in musicals for about 5 years, I then moved into screen, and I guess but this is the whole point of being creative. We want to do everything. just tell stories, in as many different forms as possible. And I think some people have the one or two that they gravitate towards, and for myself, that's film and visual storytelling. So yes, I'm an actress and writer, and I've been, to my knowledge, a member of Equity since 2013. And what actually happened was that I was not a member, and then I got very badly injured on a show and wished I'd been a member, because I was so injured that I was injured for so long that I could have been given support had I been an Equity member. But I didn't know that. When I found that out, then I thought, okay, I firstly thought that I really hope I don't get injured for so long again that I need that support. Yeah. But then I thought, I should probably be here just because all I knew was that I loved performing, but I didn't know that there are things that you really need to consider, like insurance, like your pension, like the general day-to-days of being employed in a profession. Even though it is something creative and something rooted in love and passion and vocation, it is still a registered job that comes with a lot of the issues that being in any kind of employment have. And so that was where I really had the mindset shift of, this really is a job as well as a vocation. Yeah. And I need to be supported by more than my own mental, I love this, so I'm never going to have any problems.
Yeah.
So why did you decide to stand for an equity committee in the first place?
I've always been really interested in equity in general. As soon as I was able to become a member, I was, from when I was in my third year at drama school. And I was in a show in the West End at the time, and we had also just done, I believe there'd just been a West End agreement. And so I was kind of, it was really interesting to be involved in the discussions around kind of what the next 3 years in terms of the West End agreement would be. And then thinking on that, I just wanted to get more involved. And then the elections came around for the committees, and I was in between two, actually, between going for the Young Members Committee and the LGBT plus committee. But being a gay man myself, I was really passionate anyway about LGBTQIA plus issues and equality, and especially in the workplace. And so that was kind of, I really wanted to get involved in that way. And so I just kind of, with some encouragement from a friend of mine in the show, I just went for it.
You're on the stage management committee?
Yep. This is my first term. What a term.
What a term.
I was thinking about this question as well, that I've only ever been to one meeting in person, and that was in the early of March 2020, and because before that I was on tour, so I wasn't able to be there in person, and I've never actually been in the same room as the whole committee at the same time, because Zoom rooms don't count, I would say.
And what would you, I actually, so I'm on the Young Members Committee, but I actually don't know how I would answer this question, so sorry in advance, but what would you say a committee does?
I wish I had asked this question before I joined, because not for any bad reason, but I simply didn't really know the kind of how it functioned. And it sort of leads into why I joined as well, because I was kind of bored of being someone that was vocal in a not necessarily like negative way, but critical, and asked a lot of questions of my union, is probably the polite way of saying it. And I was kind of a bit bored of being someone who always complained or felt like they were complaining, and that's not necessarily the only function of the committee, but I guess it serves as a voice to help fuel the union's work, I guess. And it's not that we don't do anything, but there is a slightly more, there's way more bureaucracy involved than I necessarily thought. But that's okay. That's fine. We play the game. That's okay.
Yeah, it's sort of like the admin of campaigning, isn't it? That's how I always think of describing it, where like the actual nitty-gritty of campaigning, not that it's boring, because I absolutely love being on committee, but it's like, it's emails and it's meetings and it's keeping the minutes. You always think of campaigning as being out with a placard, don't you? But actually the sort of devil is in the detail, in a way of bureaucracy is the word.
It's certainly helped me understand more about what goes into like the negotiations and all of like the agreements, and actually being part of that nitty-gritty is actually really interesting, and I enjoy doing that sort of stuff.
I joined in my first year of drama school, but it wasn't really, I didn't really get what equity was though. I just kind of, because I had a really common surname, I just wanted to get my name sorted out, which is like a really silly thing.
But that is the draw. I think that is it's almost this weird sort of rite of passage in that join equity and keep your name. And then, by the way, click all these links and maybe find out,
what you're actually paying for.
Support it, and what, what rates and agreements are, and etc.
What is public liability insurance, and why you need it.
Yeah, exactly. And what's the other big residuals? When you appear in a film, you could get a bit of money each year, or a TV series, and you're entitled to said money. Yeah.
So aside from becoming a member, what made you decide to stand for one of the committees?
That's a really great question. I think it's a number of reasons, and I think this is one of the general bits of advice that I would give, is that there are many different levels of activism, and I think you have to, depending on your own personal and professional responsibilities and goals, decide, when you do have that energy to commit to what would be to the committee's responsibilities, but at the same time knowing that you are one person and you're not supposed to do an entire committee's job. You come in and you offer the things that are meaningful to you. And so my decision came from the fact that something that's really important to me is empowerment on an individual level, and the many different ways that we can empower ourselves. And I think that one of the main ways to do that is through using what you know to help others. At whatever age you're at, because I know that I could, as I was graduating drama school, even though I'd barely started, I could offer advice to someone who was about to start drama school and say, now having this year, it will be 10 years since I graduated, I would love to learn from someone with 40 years experience, but I know that I can also give advice to someone who would just be leaving drama school. So I knew that, for myself, there were things that were important: empowerment, knowledge of just all the things that the union can provide, and how you can hold yourself up with strength, even just in your day-to-day experience as a creative. So feeling empowered not only in an audition, but in a job, feeling empowered enough to support your peers rather than see people as competition. So my goal in joining a committee was to bring some of those values into a committee, which those values already exist in a committee, but, thinking of myself, thinking from my own perspective rather, or what are the things in my experience that have empowered me before? And those are things like events and conversations and hearing from lots of different people and coming together to figure out different ways that we can solve problems. And I saw a committee being the way to do that.
I think, like you, I was torn between the two committees, being a bi guy and then also being a young person. I ended up going with the Young Members Committee instead. Probably there's some sort of imposter syndrome there of like, oh, I'm not gay enough. I'm not hot enough on all the issues to, truly represent the LGBT community or something. There's something like that. But it's a really interesting thing of why did you pick the LGBT plus committee over the Young Members Committee, for example?
I think just because I saw myself feeling more like I would be of more use in the LGBT plus committee, also because it was an area that interested me greatly as well, and it has interested me over the past 2 years because I've continuously learned so much on the job, and that was also a kind of draw for me. I wanted to be involved in issues that I necessarily didn't know as much about, and so this was an opportunity for me to learn and then get involved in the fights and the processes that I wanted to. I think that was it. It wasn't necessarily that I didn't want to be on the Young Members Committee. I think it was just I was more drawn to the LGBT plus committee.
Yeah, because there seems to be this thing, I think, because actually I think it's the majority of equity members are young members. Yet because you're a young member, you look at all the committees, and sometimes there's this thing where you think, well, I can only apply for the Young Members Committee. That's the committee for me, and it's
definitely. And I just thought, well, let's say, for instance, if there is a Young Members Committee, and I don't think this is the case, but if every young member went for just that committee and not kind of where they saw their interests or saw themselves identified elsewhere, then also we're missing out on having a younger member's voice on other areas. And it's the same with the LGBT plus committee, the race equality committee, the women's committee, the deaf and disabled committee. These are areas which need voices from across the age range. And so I think you're right. You can't just veer towards the one thing that the younger.
It's always strange. I think we've been sort of trying to push for maybe having like a reserved spot on each committee for a young member, considering so much of the equity membership is young. And there's always that. I mean, a lot of young members are quite new into the industry. Some of them have just come out of drama schools. Some of them are still finding their feet in whatever profession they're doing within sort of equities umbrella. And then they're also like, oh well, I guess just young members. So it's really good to meet other young members who are part of other committees as well.
You were a young members councillor as well before, weren't you? Before the women's committee.
Yeah, I was, and I stood, and I was the only person that stood.
Really? Wow.
So I think things are changing now, and it's more hotly contested seat, which is amazing. And I hope that it only expands through things like this that you're doing and bringing so much awareness to how you can contribute really early on in your career to the work going on in the union. Being a young members councillor was definitely a baptism of fire, because even just the aspect of council meetings and agendas and minutes, just all these things that I never knew what someone's taking minutes, and it is really interesting, because you, especially in vocational training, you get like a very specific vocabulary that you enter the world of work with, because it's your world of work. Auditions, casting, these kinds of words. You don't know like account manager, account exec, agendas, minutes. You don't know those things.
Yeah, I remember like going to my first branch meeting, and they said, right, okay, so we need to work on the motion we're going to submit to the AGM. Does anyone have any ideas? And I just sat there like, what does that mean?
Literally, like motion, AGM, ARC. Wait, the annual general meeting. What does that mean, though?
Yeah.
and it's only knowledge. It's not, it's like explaining to someone, oh, I have a casting, and it's not casting as in like something being put around my broken wrist. It's what I need to do to get a job. It's all like the exchange of language, right?
Actually, that is one of the things though that was really great about the Young Members Committee, was that when you went in there, they expected you to know nothing. So everything was really laid out, and everything was explained. And I'm kind of glad, because when I was standing last time, I was considering, okay, am I going to go for women or young members? Because I'm the grandma of the Young Members Committee. I was 30 when I stood.
Cusp.
Yeah, I know, that's it.
That's brilliant.
But actually, I think it was a really good grounding, because there was quite a lot of taking you through the process of what being on a committee is.
I remember my first time on the Young Members Committee. It was a bit strange, because usually whenever I'm part of any sort of political committee, I'm like the only young person there. And so it's like, you're in charge of social media because you're young. You must do all of the young people stuff. And suddenly I was on a committee where I was like, oh, do I have a use beyond being the young person? All these other people are young as well.
Do you know, one of the other things I really love is you have a member of staff in the meetings, and therefore you just really get to know equity members of staff. So we have Charlotte Bentz, who's just the most incredible human being.
From a very selfish point of view, when someone asks me a question, like a mate or a company member, I can be like, oh, you need to email this person at Equity, like, and you solve a million problems, like, because they're suddenly emailing the person they actually need to be doing. And that's part of an individual's own education of understanding who at the union they need to email. But I can understand that not everyone necessarily wants to go and find that out. 100%. So actually, I like being that kind of, I don't know, messenger for that. I don't really know how to explain it.
It's but like gatekeeper through, like a stepping stone to the union.
Yeah. Just another link, and like, if you can be that person, and if you're interested in kind of being that person of like, oh, I know who will know it. I know someone that, like, being another connection, if that makes sense.
How have you found being on the Women's Committee in terms of the workload and your life in general around it? How's that been for you?
It's definitely varied, and I think that any committee, any person even graduating, going through an experience with half of it being in a pandemic is gonna be something else entirely. I think that within the Women's Committee, it was so nice that we were able to start our term with some face-to-face meetings, and so enlightening to see the different circumstances that each committee member is going through, being a new mother or a mother to adults, being someone, and seeing the different issues that are really important to each committee member. And just sitting down and thinking, wow, it's so incredible that this is so important to you. And I know it's important, but it's it's amazing seeing, say, on our level of things that are important in our lives, what's at the top for me is different to what's on the top for the person sitting next to me, and almost being a bit of an actor in it and thinking, I wonder what has happened in that person's life to make that really important to them. And I think that is what is so great about being on a committee, is being in that group with people from different walks of life. I was able to one of our committee members, Rose Collis, we went to watch a performance, sort of, I'd say rehearsed reading, but performance that she did to begin raising funds for a show she's putting on. And she's collected 40 years worth of archives of her life. And just seeing the creative activism and the creative work of the members has been, and being able to share yours as well and say to the group, look, this is what I'm working on. It's like a new group of collaborators in a way. And so it's been really, even though, you know, for a lot of it's been via emails and Zoom, it's so great when we are able to connect with each other, to just see just how much time has passed, but also how much work in different areas of the committee, be that in intimacy direction or different reports we're working on, the growth that has been achieved in that time.
Yeah, and I think that's a really rewarding part of being on a committee, because when I look at, you know, where we started, and we only had one person who was formally on the committee before, so we were pretty much brand new.
Wow.
So he's our chair, and so just going back to, you know, thinking, oh, what have we actually done this year? Oh, we've done quite a lot.
What's the sort of experience of the LGBT plus committee being like?
It's been brilliant. Like I said before, like I was really keen to use this as a learning opportunity as well, and it has been. And I've worked alongside people who identify on all of the different areas in the kind of LGBT plus umbrella, and that for me has been really eye-opening, because very honestly, like I haven't just being a part of the LGBT plus community doesn't mean that I necessarily am surrounded by every single person or type of person who could fit in the community, and it doesn't necessarily mean that I know everything about them, and you know how they live their lives, and what struggles and bright moments they have, and all these kinds of things. So it's been wonderful in that respect. And also the past 2 years have been so empowering as well, being so involved in things like we've got our LGBT plus casting guide, which was published before I joined, but we have since looked at, and it's now being re-edited to be then republished with some additions. And we've been looking at student members, and that's something that we've done in our this last term, because like you say, we have such a huge young membership, and a lot of those members, I know I joined Equity in my final year at drama school, so literally as soon as I was able to, but that was a whole year that I was a member of Equity, albeit a student member, so I had, you know, I didn't have access to everything, and my subs were reduced, but I was a member of Equity for a whole year where there wasn't really much that the union was able to do or had done, so that was a huge part of our focus over the last year, and we've recently just done a questionnaire, a survey about the experiences of LGBT plus members in drama schools and kind of how we can help. So it's been great, and for me the overwhelming feeling is just being helpful and feeling like I'm putting my hands and my brain to good use. And so I definitely say the past 2 years has been not only interesting and hard, but in terms of hard working, but it's been incredibly rewarding as well.
Just practically, in terms of the commitment level, what do you do?
So I think we meet as a committee, I think it's 4 times a year, but I feel like it's been more, but maybe it's not. Maybe we've just had a lot of random breakout Zooms, which have also been brilliant as well. So you have those meetings, and obviously there's a bit of prep for that in terms of like find if you need to like read the minutes from the previous meeting, or like prep anything that you're kind of presenting to the committee, or like you want to bring something for discussion, and all of that sort of thing, those sorts of things. And equally, like at the beginning, I definitely, I wouldn't say I did the bare minimum, because I was still kind of like, I don't really know what's happening, so I'm just going to read the minutes and turn up and be part of the discussion, but I'm going to like absorb things and learn first.
What's been the one thing that's been your sort of, maybe proudest achievement, or the thing that you've most enjoyed being able to be a part of on your time in the committee?
Definitely, I think the opportunities that it's also provided for me to get further involved with the union in general.
Mm-hmm.
One of the great things, they have the ARC, which is the Annual Representatives Conference,
I think, yeah.
Although that became the SRC twice in a row, the Special Representatives Conference, because they couldn't do it the normal day. But being involved in something like that, and then also as part of the committees, every committee member has the opportunity to go and sit on another committee meeting. I think that's more the equalities committees get to send a delegate to go to one of the stage committee or the screen and new media, etc. And so I've been able to sit in on the stage committee meetings, which has been so interesting as well, because I'm so interested in that side of things, although I don't have as much experience working in the industry as the majority of people who sit on that committee and do the work there. Being able to sit in there and be a part of that, and also have a voice where it would LGBT plus committee, because that is also kind of the point of me being there, and the same for other equalities committees. But I would say that's definitely been one of the brightest parts of it for me, just being able to feel that involvement and be engaged in the union much more than, not that just the committee is a bad thing, but I was getting into just the committee, and I've been involved in so much more than just that.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things when you join a committee on equity, you think, right, this is it, I've now got to dedicate all my time to doing this committee, but actually it's almost like the doors suddenly open to the entire equity political force, and all of these things that you would have never encountered just being an actor or a director or a stage manager going about your day-to-day job. Suddenly you're like, there's all these campaigns going on, and there's these great like conferences where, unfortunately, in the past couple of years people haven't been able to hang out too much, but you get to hang out with other members from other places and do all of these like awesome things.
Don't you find that you find stuff out that's happening outside of equity as well, just because generally the people who get involved are quite engaged and political and activists in their own rights outside of it, and so it's the work you're doing together on the committee, but also you sort of hear about other things that are happening more generally, which can be a really great it's just really great for connecting with really good people, don't you think?
Yeah, for sure. And I think you kind of get a gauge about, like, we all have our own experiences of the industry, but then you get a better understanding of what might be a better average to read from as well, just by making those connections and like understanding things.
I've been a member of equity since I was 19, but I didn't go to my first branch meeting till I was 30, because I always felt like, oh, well, I'm not really a proper actor. Like, I mean, I'm just doing TIE and I'm working in a dungeon doing like scary attraction things, and like, well, what are these people going to think of me? But it's not like that at all. No. And even if you've been out of work for a little while, just think having that, your voice is still valuable, especially for new graduates coming in. You can learn from the experience of older people, but you also give them a new perspective.
The point of this podcast and these sort of couple of podcasts that we're doing at the moment is to try and encourage some of our young members and some of our listeners to consider standing for a committee. So what advice would you give to a young member who's listening to this and thinking, I might stand for that committee or this committee? What's your advice for them?
My advice would be just to go for it. Just do it. I think the one thing for me, the friend who ended up talking to me into kind of going for the committee, we would speak about it, and he was like, just go for it. You've got something to say. You've got you care deeply about these things. Even if it doesn't go your way because of the voting or anything, you lose nothing by trying. And that's kind of it. Just go for it. And I guarantee that if you think you might be interested, I guarantee that you probably are. And if you were to be on one of the committees and were voted in, you will enjoy those 2 years more than you would know at this point, and you will have a lot more to take from it than you think.
Sometimes you're always a bit worried with these things, whether it's going to be too much of a time commitment or you're going to feel like a fish out of water. But my experience, and I'm sure yours too, has just been that you're welcomed into such a warm environment with loads of people who just want to do the same thing as you and try and improve the industry, improve the union, and I think it's a great thing to be a part of.
You know, you get out what you put into it. So like if you have questions, talk to your union, like, and that's what the committees serve to do. You know, like I've quite, you know, for better or for worse, I tweet and put on Facebook, we've got a stage management meet equity group, so people can choose to be part of that and ask us the committee questions, for example. You know, I tell people that we're meeting as a committee, if anyone's got anything they want us to chat about, let us know. And we don't always get responses, and that's, you know, I can't, you know, we can't represent people if they don't say anything. So, and we're not, you know, the 9 of us that are on the committee, I think there's 9 of us, I hope there is. You know, we don't represent all stage managers. I know we don't. So we have, you know, we need other people to come with their opinions and their questions and hold us to account. Like, you know, we don't mind. Like, we'd rather you do that than, like, you know, sit in silence and then just be mad at us.
I think that is the most brilliant, like, call out to get involved, whether it's on a committee or just in general, which is that the union is made of members. That's who it is. So if you have a gripe or you feel like it doesn't represent you, then get involved.
You cannot whinge enough, honestly. Like you know, I used to whinge a lot, and I you know, I'm a gobshite, absolute gobshite. I will ask so many incessant questions. I will send like unrelenting emails if I don't have answers to questions, and that's probably why it's a good job I'm on the committee, because at least it's, you know, I'm doing something about it now. I think if you are interested in running, if you're a stage manager, come and have a chat with us and, you know, talk to us about it. And if you are a stage manager but interested in other committees that you would qualify to be in, go and join them, because there aren't enough stage managers in the other committees either. Yeah, my biggest piece of advice, if anyone is considering running, go and chat to someone that's already on a committee that you're interested in. All of the email addresses to contact them are on the website. We've probably all got Twitter accounts, we definitely probably do, and the inboxes are open. So go and ask the questions. Like, don't be afraid to be like, oh, I'm interested in running, because someone will then immediately come back to you with a massive spiel, I promise you. Yeah.
And what you said at the beginning, just to circle back, is absolutely true, that none of us really know what we're doing, or at least knew what we were doing when we started. So if you listen to all of this and it doesn't make sense, or you don't really understand what a committee is, then yeah, like Lizzie says, we're all very contactable and we'll definitely be telling you all the reasons you should do it.
So what advice do you think you'd give to, you know, a young member who's thinking about standing and maybe they're not very sure?
I would say get in touch with someone in the committee, you know, whether that's the committee email generally, or if you see people in the committee, get in touch with someone and ask for their experience in the same way that you guys are doing this. I would also say don't worry about whether you know a lot about, like, giving election vibes and speeches and quote unquote knowing things. I think all you need to know is that you care about something and you want to help out. And when we all can, you want to sit around a table and eat biscuits and have like great chats for a couple of hours every 3 months. But I would honestly say, if you care about something, if you've had an experience at drama school, if you've had an experience whilst working and you think this experience changed me, or I would like to give someone the opportunity to have this experience or to not have this experience, then come and join the room and talk about it, because it's likely that if you've been through it, someone else will, or someone else has, and they will really benefit from any kind of change or any kind of experience to get less or more of that. If you care about something, join the room.
To put yourself forward for a committee nomination in 2021, go to equity.org.uk/committee-nominations-2021.
Thanks for listening
to the Young Members Podcast,
made by the Equity Young Members Committee.
Follow us at Equity YMC.
See you next time.
Bye.
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 Bye. Bye.
Goodbye.